Hello and welcome to Nonic Nonsense, a show that is just as chaotic as those coast to coast Broadway cattle calls. You know which ones we're talking about. I am Kat Gold. Today, Michael Matterdomini is unfortunately sick, so he will not be here with us. But I am joined by an incredible performer that I got to work with this summer, and I'm so glad he is here. It is Dean.
Hello, and the thing is, Kat, I don't. You only know me from six lines, so I could be a really shit performer, and you'll never know.
Oh,
But
shut the fuck up, Dean. Shut up. How are
I
you
had.
doing?
I'm great. I'm great. Currently in Mississippi at a
Mm-hmm.
casino. That's
Doing Elf.
doing Elf the musical. Yes, it's very fun, very spirited. A lot of tap, which is great. I love to tap. So
There you
um,
go.
yeah, yeah. I'm
Get
so
your
happy to
moves
be here.
on. I'm so happy you are here. So this will come out. How long is Elf running through?
So we got here on the 18th of November. We have rehearsals until the 11th. We open on the 12th, and we are
Mm-hmm.
here until the 28th. So it's just like a nice 2 week run of the
Oh,
show.
okay. That's nice. It's like pretty chill. I mean, like I love like a long run because you can get like really comfy with it. But I think for like a holiday contract, that feels like good.
Yeah, and it's most days are double shows, so it's going to be a busy schedule.
Ooh, okay. That
Yeah,
holiday schedule. Mm.
the holiday schedule. Um, but it seems like the tickets are selling pretty well. We're considered crew here, so a lot of the crew are coming because they get comps, which is nice, and I have my parents coming, so it's going to be really fun. And the holidays are busting out over here in Mississippi, in Biloxi. So
That was so fun. I wish I could go see it.
I
Please,
know,
if you can get me a bootleg, hey.
I know. We may be able to stick around. Stick around for the boot.
Okay, so just to get started, tell me, how did you get your start in theater and performing?
The year was 2000. I was
Hmm.
5 years old, and I was in a production at what was called at the time the Hartford Stage. I'm from Connecticut, for those folks, and the Hartford Stage is no well. What is it called? Well, the Hartford Stage is an actual regional theater, but
Hmm.
there was a small theater, and I maybe also was called the Hartford Stage, but it was like the kids' community version. And
Okay.
I was in the a play version of the Lorax, and my shining role was I got to sit in a box for like a half an hour, and I just held up props. So I had no lines. You didn't see my face. You just saw my hands go up with the tree. And then when
Hmm.
we were the Thneeds, we had like green gloves on, and I just did this with some knitting needles, and that was
I'm
it.
obsessed. I'm
That
obsessed.
that was me. It was that was
And
the
then you
dream.
caught the bug.
And then I caught the bug. But then my second show, I was Horton in Horton Hears a Who.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and so it was really fun. And from there, I was like, I'm a star. And I actually didn't say that, but yes. So that was me. That was my beginning. And from there, I I had a home theater called NCTC, or Nugent Children's Theater Community Center. No, Nugent Children's Theater Community. Um, and we did like touring shows with kids, and we would go all around to the community centers of Connecticut and do kind of an off-brand Cinderella, off-brand shows. But it was still really fun, and I still have lifelong friends from that. So
That
yeah,
sounds similar to like Missoula Children's Theater. Is that kind of like the same vibe or no?
no. So there's this really shitty uh, licensing company called Pioneer,
Mm-hmm.
and they they do shows like Cinderella. So it's the basic plot of Cinderella with
Yeah.
very reminiscent characters, and it's
Hmm.
all original music.
Hmm.
Some of the songs, bops. Some of the songs, awful. Did we infuse Rodgers and Hammerstein in the show? Absolutely. Were we supposed to? No.
Pioneers hunting you down actively for what you've done.
I think it's only like $70 a show, so I don't think they lost that much money back then, or we gained more money or something. So
Oh my
it's the R&H Foundation that has to come after us.
God. Ooh, they're spicy. Oh my God. So tell me, what was your like education and like training with theater? Tell me about that.
Yeah. Um. So all throughout, all throughout school, starting in elementary, I was very sing-songy. I loved singing, I loved dancing, and I loved acting.
Yeah.
So, like NCTC, I did all of those shows, and those were kind of in the winter, early spring, and then I would do my middle school musical as well. I did my high school musicals. I did choir. I was a big choir person, so I did choir from fifth grade to senior year. I played the
Hmm.
violin. I went to tap class, so I was tapping at a ripe age. Um, so all those things were kind of my foundation, and then I went to school. I went to Wagner College, represent Wagner College for theater and speech with a performance concentration, which is just a fancy way of saying musical theater. Uh,
There you
but
go.
but we're not a BFA program, so I guess it's like, oh, I have a BA in theater and speech and blah blah blah. And then I got my master's in theater education over the pandemic. So theater has just always been a part of my life. Um, I'm very grateful, very happy that I've had so many teachers and so many colleagues, and I I too am a teacher, which is great, and I love it, and it brings me a lot of joy. So yeah.
Yeah. How did you do your master's program during the pandemic? How did
So
that work for like a performance degree? That's crazy to me.
so I graduated in 2017, and I was performing regionally, and I worked for
Hmm.
Disney Cruise Line. So I had some great gigs that way, and then I was auditioning in the city, and I had jobs lined up. But obviously, with the pandemic, I was like, I cannot do this right now. I was supposed to be Uncle Max in The Sound of Music, in the 2020 summer, but
Hmm.
um, they were still going with it, this theater, and I was just not comfortable. I was not mentally in the right space to do that.
Yeah.
But while I was kind of dealing with, do I go, do I stay? I was like, I've always had the vision of going to school for theater education down in some
Yeah.
way, or education in some way. And I started looking at schools. I looked at Emerson and I looked at NYU, and I had to take the GRE. So I studied for the GRE during the pandemic. I used that time to do that, and and then I was like, okay. I was like, I'm gonna write my letters. I had a friend help me. We don't talk anymore, but that's fine. But thanks for the help. But he helped me write my letter, which was very nice. Then I got rejected from Emerson. They told me that, and I asked them if they could provide feedback onto why I didn't get accepted. And they said I talked too much about being a performer and not an educator.
Mm.
Um, so I was like, great, I'm gonna take that and run with it for the NYU application, and we got into NYU. And my love for teaching, actually, the theater that I grew up doing theater in, NCTC, they, when I was going out, older years of high school into college, I transitioned to being a creative team member. So I music directed, I choreographed, and then I had my first directing gig at the theater where I grew up doing theater for 10 years. So that was also a really special full circle moment, that was my first directing gig. And I just love teaching. I love directing especially. So yeah, that's kind of my lineage of being a teacher and director.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, no, I feel like especially just talking about like directing, I feel like it's just like a such a natural like progression like for performers to go into directing because it's so much of like sitting there with all the backstory and watching rehearsals actively happen, and so often it's just like I could fix that. Just let me just sit with this person for like 10 minutes and I could fix this issue that's occurring.
And it's also, you're so right about that, and I feel like, especially during college, I went to a school where I was in New York, and I was so easily accessible to go rush shows, and I saw so many shows.
Mm-hmm.
I would get the cheap ass seat on the side. I didn't care what view I had of the stage. I just wanted to be in the theater. That was all that mattered to me. I would rather do that than go spend my money on vodka. Rest assured, we still had vodka, but
Of
I,
course.
of course, but I was like, party or go see, um, go see Pippin, the revival with Patina
Yeah.
Miller for the fourth time, which is also what I did. But I just always chose theater, and the more knowledge you have, the more perception you get, the more you begin to understand the picture and what is the goal. And I feel like for myself now, yes, I'm an actor, but I feel like I find myself going to theater as a director now and trying
Yeah.
to understand the why. And I feel like one of the shows that really opened that for me was The Notebook, which,
Mm.
so good. But a lot of people had interesting things to say about the casting because you have a white older Allie with POC younger Allies and middle Allies, and I think I think what the from my perception of the show, right, is this story is told from older Allie's POV, where she
Mm-hmm.
doesn't know that the story is about her when
Yeah.
she's hearing it. So because of that, I was like, oh, it gives so much more liberty to tell multiple stories. So when
Yeah.
she's imagining the show, she can imagine whoever she wants to be. It doesn't have to be her as Allie. It's it's this character, it's this Allie, but it's not her, So it gives that
Mm-hmm.
chance. It gives the chance to create a more impactful story, and I loved that all the people from the present timeline were the people in the past. So she's only using the things that are around her. So I feel like I'm just my my theater going has shifted, and now I don't. Obviously, I enjoy theater, but I'm always going in it with a why. Like, why the show? Why now? What are we trying to get the audience to take away? Even if it is just a comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Like Death Becomes Her, which is number one on my list right now. I still want to know why and what they're doing to bring the story to life in a way that is accessible
Yeah.
and celebratory and diverse and open to so many audience members who go.
I have to go see that. My friend Johanna is swinging the show. I have to go see it. But tell me, just because it's interesting when you start directing going into shows and you can't watch it with the same mind. It's really bad. Like I did directing class in college and I couldn't enjoy theater for a period of time because I was sitting there going like trying to figure out how to fix things and like and then you start to see like what good theater is, and it makes it just so. Tell me, what was a show that you saw where you're like, oh, this is a different level, this is the stuff that this is like the standard of things, how things should go in theater.
Gosh. So I think for me, there are
Mm-hmm.
two productions
Mm-hmm.
that have done that. Three, one is we can get to after, but I think the first show I saw where I was so moved and so emotionally invested slash impacted by the show
Hmm.
was the Deaf West Spring Awakening by Michael Arden.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That show, we went as a school because we had a alumni in the show, and we got cheapish tickets, which were great seats.
Hmm.
We, I, it was one of those shows where I left and was staring at a wall for hours afterwards because I, I just, I mean, what Michael Arden did with that show, knowing when to use the sign language to enhance the story, to the POV shifts and
Hmm.
all those things, it's so good. And when he upped himself is when he did the immersive Once on this Island, which
Hmm.
to me is the best piece of theater. It I always differentiate favorite and best. Once on this Island is one of my favorite shows of all time, but I I think for me the best theater experience I've had was Once on this Island
Hmm.
in terms of what the show did for me.
Hmm.
And again, the storytelling, it's always back to the storytelling. How are we creating a visceral, emotional, impactful story that is surprising, engaging? The Michael Arden is a genius. And Parade, he again, like the lineage, maybe Happy Ending I haven't seen yet, but
I want
you
to go
know,
see that so bad. I really
let's
hope
go.
it I hope it runs for a while. It makes me nervous because so many things are closing right now. Like they just
I know.
announced like last night that Swept Away is closing after like 2 weeks on Broadway. Tammy Faye is closing. All these shows that are without like an IP, like without a movie, are closing
Yeah,
now. It's kind of scary.
it is. I think they have Darren Criss to take him through for a bit because Darren Criss is
Yeah.
great, and we know he has a fan base from his AVPM days.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, so I think he'll keep it afloat.
Hmm.
I'm curious. I haven't heard it. Knock on wood, but it's on my list.
Yeah,
Um,
no. It so
yeah.
but yeah, the shows when I think back of the two shows that made me really think when I was in directing class, we went to see the live stream of National Theater's production of Medea with Helen McCrory. I watched
Oh,
that and I went, that's the shit I want to make. That is good. That is good theater.
mm-hmm.
Also, if you want the bootleg of it, I got it.
Please.
Yeah. And then the other thing that I saw, which kind of like brought in when you were talking about like a visceral experience from beginning to end, was seeing Great Comet.
Forgot about that. Well, Great Comet is so great. Literally.
It was so great. I mean, just from walking in through the curtains into that space where like people were getting pierogies and like
The pierogies.
the pierogies and like the shakers for the Balaga number and like Grace McLean, who is like one of my favorite fucking people, like walking up to me, like doing the pre-show where they're talking everyone through what stuff is going to be happening all the way wrap around all the performers in that space. What an incredible show. I'm glad that more regional theaters are starting to do it. It's a hard show to do with the specific people that you need and the specific space that
Yeah.
would make the show work. I'm happy it's happening more, but oh my God, what an
No,
experience.
that was great. And I'm also to bring in my third show. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
huge uh, I'm a huge ambassador for immersive theater,
Mm-hmm.
and my favorite the most incredible thing that has truly left an impact on me is Sleep No More,
Yeah.
um, which is to me
Mm-hmm.
that was the show, the experience that changed my world on what theater could be, and I've always wanted to create a Sleep No More inspired leveled show.
Yeah.
I don't. I have ideas. We could talk later, but
Hey.
that's my dream. And I think Great Comet is cool because it was so big, but when it started, it was in a tent,
Yeah.
and I was almost going to go when it was off Broadway. It was actually next to the Imperial in a tent. I walked up and I was like, "What is this show?" And they're like, "It's Great Comet," and I was like, "Don't know what the fuck that means." So I was like, "How much are tickets?" And they're like 40. I was like, "Okay." And it was a pretty small tent. Um,
Hmm.
and I didn't go, and I waited until I saw it on Broadway, and I'm glad I did. I thought that was amazing.
Yeah.
Um, but it's cool that it shows that it could be in a big space like the Imperial, or it could
Hmm.
be in a more confined tent.
Yeah.
If that's your vision. So
Yeah. I think in order for things to survive in New York at this point, I think people need to start looking more off Broadway, in my opinion. I think some of these big houses are just not a lot of the shows that are happening are like the transfers from like city center and stuff. Things are just not living long enough to maintain those huge ass houses. And I feel like some of the really creative new stuff is going to have to live in an off Broadway land. But even that is starting to get like inaccessible. I mean, like when you think what happened with the Kinky Boots when it went off Broadway, it barely survived after having a thriving, run on Broadway. It's interesting to see what is happening with theater. And I wonder if it's, just because of the changes that have happened post COVID. But I'm wanting to see what happens in like the next 5 years, you know?
no, and I agree with you. I think a big thing about it is, it, first off, I think it's marketing.
Mm-hmm.
I think a show needs, it's like when you walk into a room, you need to know who you are and what you bring
Mm-hmm.
to the room. And I think it goes for a show. It's like, what are you trying to do? And it doesn't mean in just terms of giving a message. I
Mm-hmm.
think I think from the get go, Death Becomes Her is a prime example of, we are a big, brassy, campy, queer, gay icon,
Yeah.
and they marketed it as that, and it is now has a long run ahead of
Yeah.
itself from what
Yeah.
I've seen ticket wise.
Yeah.
So they knew what they wanted. Sunset Boulevard. I mean, it's a well known name, but it was like, we are a revamped, re-envisioned show of a
Mm-hmm.
classic that is notorious for having one of the biggest sets on Broadway of all time. And so, I think I think some shows unfortunately don't make it because they don't know their identity. And
Yeah.
I think that is a hard sell. And I also think some shows just go under the radar and aren't, uh, like, I wish I knew more. I wish I knew a little bit more about Swept Away because it looked really cool and I've heard really great things about it. I heard great stuff about the set and things, but I wish I would have known a little bit more about it before it was just pushed onto the Broadway stage. You
Yeah.
know, I feel like I've been hearing about Death Becomes Her for a year, and I
Yeah.
feel like I've been hearing about Swept Away for 3 months. And so
Yeah.
I think that difference helps because the word of mouth, the buzz, the campy videos that they put out of Megan Hilty and Jennifer Samard,
Mm-hmm.
and they also have a cult following because they're both gay icons.
Yeah.
Uh, let's be honest here. Um, and that is no, this is it is no disrespect to anybody because I think every show deserves the chance to have a space on Broadway. I just wish I wish I was enticed a little bit more before knowing what I'm going to be spending my money on to go
Yeah.
see a show. So
Especially with the ticket prices being what they are.
especially,
Yeah.
but
It's
you know,
Yeah, I mean, we could honestly spend like hours talking about the inaccessibility of like musical theater and stuff, right? But we can move on to other things. So tell me, we all have them. I gotta know crazy audition stories.
Crazy audition stories. I think the craziest for me
Mm-hmm.
was I can't I know I've had one like when you're like, oh, that was a shit callback, and
Yeah,
your
yeah.
friends are like, no, it's not as bad as you think, and you're like, no, no, that was really bad. In terms of that, that was fine, but and I can go into that. But I think the craziest audition experience I've ever had
Yeah, yeah.
was Hairspray 2020 for
Oh
the
my God.
non-equity tour. I'm sure I'm
Oh,
not the only person who would fucking say that.
you are not the only person. We literally have a person coming on that came on 2 weeks ago that was talking about it. Please tell me your story.
Oh my
Please.
god. So I get there at like maybe like
Mm-hmm.
seven. And I probably would have been 150 in line. Nah, probably more than that. Maybe like 250, let's say.
Oh my God.
Fine. I know, it's crazy. Could have been seen. Could have. Didn't. And they basically just weren't prepared for us. What people were doing was, right? We would go in and I kind of scoped. I had to go down the block and around and I was like, okay, I'm not too far. I'm far, but I'm not terribly far.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
should be fine. Now, they didn't have enough holding rooms to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, people, I'm sorry, cunties were were saying that they were so Hairspray was on floor 3 or 4,
Mm-hmm.
and Pearl also has a room up on like 11.
Yeah, yeah.
So people were saying that they were going up to floor 11, going up and taking the elevator back down, or taking the staircase back down to cut the line to skip people. So what became 200, 250 became 350, 400.
Fuck.
And my whole room was cut. They were like, we have no more. You can drop your hat shot off. You can submit. Here's the submission link. Thanks for coming in. That's it. I was so I was mortified. I was so upset. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I have names. I have names of people who cut the line. If you're listening, you know who you were. I won't say the name because I'm a kind. I know that's what makes me so nice. Um,
Shout them
no,
out. I can censor over them.
no, I won't. I'm a as a good Christian woman. No,
Mm-hmm.
no. So people did it and they got seen, and guess what? They weren't on the fucking tour anyways. So I hope the cut was worth it. Um, Karma's a bitch. So yeah, that was the worst. And actually, you know what? Let's just keep the hairspray train going. So I had a callback for Edna for World Caribbean earlier this year,
Mm-hmm.
and I was very excited because Edna is a dream role. Um,
Yeah.
I just would love to play Edna. It's only a role I can grow into age wise, which is great. Um, so I went into I was prepared to do my stuff. It was really
Mm-hmm.
good, and I go into the room. I'm feeling pretty jazzed. Wasn't expecting 10 people behind the table. It was like 8 to 10. It was the pianist. It was the directors, the producers, casting agents. I was being filmed. And they were so close to the door. I'm like, you have this
Yeah.
whole room. Could you back the fuck up a little bit? So little space, maybe. Little,
Yeah.
maybe. I don't know. It's crazy, right? So they're like, okay, let's start with Edna. We'll do You Can't Stop the Beat. I'm like, great. Now, You Can't Stop the Beat. So Harvey Firestein, as we all know, is the original Edna. Love him, icon, legend, my idol. And Harvey's voice is unique, shall we say? And so
Mm-hmm.
there's the Harvey key, and there's the not Harvey key, which is usually the one that John Travolta uses, etc.
Yeah, yeah.
And Ednas who have a more gusto vocal range, if you will.
Yeah.
So I knew the difference. However, as they started playing Harvey's key, I sang I sang the other one, and they stopped me, and they're like, I think you're singing the wrong key. And I was like, okay. I was like, can I just hear it? I was like, I totally was. You were so correct about that.
Yeah,
Let me
yeah.
do it. Let me do it again. We go again. I still sang the non-Harvey key.
Oh,
And they
no.
had to like spell it out for me. They're like, you can't stop. I was like, guys, I was like, I am so sorry. I was like, the Harvey key and the other key, there's so many keys. Um, so whatever. They have their tracks, whatever. I do my scene, fine. I do the song, it's fine. It just was after that, I was like, I didn't get it. I know I didn't. It was all just very mid to bad. And then they just weren't, I don't know. So I, but again, I'm younger and it's only a role we can grow into. Um, and I just did Hairspray as the understudy, so it was a great chance to have that. And I was like, oh, that's the Harvey key. Got it. I know that key because I'm scarred from it now. But yeah, fucking scarred. And I'm
Tell
pretty
me.
good. I'm pretty good at knowing keys. Like I have very relative pitch. I could tell you which key Emmy Rossum sang of Think of Me and which key Sierra Boggess will sing. And I could sing you that, but for some fucking reason, I think it's because I wanted it too bad. I think it was because I was so excited to be in consideration for a dream role that
Yeah, yeah.
I let it get to my head. I got really into my head. I wasn't myself. I wasn't grounded. I was so flighty. I wasn't comfortable. And
Yeah.
because of that is why I didn't do good. So don't put pressure on yourself, kids. That's your lesson
Yeah.
of the day.
Yeah, no. But anyway, tell me about Hairspray though. How was Hairspray?
Hairspray was very fun.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I was the male authority figure, so I played the Flasher, the iconic
Mm-hmm.
Flasher who lives next door, Mr. Pinky, who was my favorite, the principal, Spritzer, who's the head of the Ultra Clutch channel,
Mm-hmm.
um, and the yeah. So I played those roles. It was and the police officer.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was great, and then I got to understudy Edna and Wilbur. So it was a lot on my plate. You know, it's juggling three tracks and but I had really wonderful. I had a wonderful Edna and Wilbur. Um, they were so kind and gracious, and were just always there to, you know, if I had a question. Uh, it was fun. I love the show. I think it's just one of those scores where every song is a bop, and you're like, how the fuck is every song good? How is
I know.
every single song good?
It's so good. Like,
It's perfect.
listen, we gotta get so Michael is friends with Mark Shaman. We gotta get him on the pod. I was just like, come on.
And you'll have me back, right?
Done, done, done.
I love you,
Done and
Mark.
done.
Love you, Mark.
No, but isn't it
Um,
great to like understudy like good, kind people who are
it
helpful?
it is, and you know, I'm understudying shows in this, and I know that you know because I guess there's someone I was talking to recently here at the show
Hmm.
who was like, oh, you know, it's an unspoken rule that you know you don't go up to the lead to ask them questions, and I'm like, where the fuck have you heard that? I,
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not, and maybe that's just how I personally work. Like
Yeah.
in this summer at our theater, you know, my understudy Henry, shout out to Henry. Um, you know, I had note cards for every scene.
Yeah, yeah.
I have, and how I do my cards is half is the line, just like the first couple words, and then I just have the movement. So it's a very clear roadmap for me and my brain to know where I have to go. And I sent them all to Henry because Henry got to go on for a week because I had COVID. So I missed a whole week of shows. And I'm like, I want, you know, for myself, I want my understudy to, if I ever have one, to feel like they could come up to me and approach me. And I was like, these backwards rules, I was like, out, out the window. You know, if you have a question, just ask. I'm like,
Yeah.
ugh, people.
everyone just wants the show to like work well. And especially like it's heartbreaking like when you can't be there to do a show. However, it's also like the most crazy, chaotic, exciting day at the theater when you're not there because understudy is
Yes.
going on and like everyone's doing put-ins and costume fittings and like trying to make magic work with very little notice. But tell me, okay, we have to talk about the barn. We got to talk about Theater by the Sea. Talk about Tootsie.
So,
The silence is great.
would like to start out by saying that our leaders,
Mm-hmm.
Ricky J. Hines,
Mm-hmm.
who was our director, Ellen, his associate,
I
and
love
Tommy, our
Ellen. I love
amazing.
Ellen. Ellen choreographed me in college. I need to like hook up with her again because like we haven't seen
Yeah,
each other in years and years. So
she's amazing.
lovely.
And Tommy, who was our music director.
Mm-hmm.
All of them icons. And I learned so much about this is chapter is called A Lesson in Grace. So we had 2 weeks, about 2 weeks to put up the show,
Mm-hmm.
to get it ready for tech. And we were so on schedule. Everything was on time. Everything was good. We all felt so secure in our show. We did our
Mm-hmm.
design run. Design run went super smoothly. Laughs were there. We knew we still had work to do, but we were in such a place where we're like, hell yeah, our show is awesome. And on top of that, this was my first uh, lead in an equity house,
Mm-hmm.
because it's Theater by the Sea is a very well known regional theater, and I was really grateful slash excited. I've worked for the company before with their sister theater, but
Yeah.
I was so grateful that this opportunity arose, and I loved my role. I loved being a part of the show. I loved having fun, and we did some great stuff. It's the first time I've ever been in a show, or one of the examples I've been in a show where I I felt so secure with my character and everything that was happening that I never second guessed myself, if that makes sense.
Mm.
I was the most confident I ever felt, but maybe that's just because we did our homework really well because we had the time to do it.
No, but sometimes like material just fits in with you so well. Like the way the
Yeah.
dialogue flows, sometimes things just like click in a way that not every role does. It's just like
No.
innate. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's just a Robert Horn thing who
Mm-hmm.
Robert Horn, yeah, who did the book, and won a Tony for it because it is so good. And I know that Tootsie, I was a little nervous about saying I was going to be in Tootsie because I know that the show had some backlash when it was on Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it depends on who you have as a director and what they're trying to say within the show. And I think
Mm-hmm.
Ricky's approach to the material was so, you know, we really hope, it was never about him being a woman or a man in a woman's dress. It was
Yeah.
always about him just wanting to do the work. And this was the entryway, and he saw Broadway and couldn't see past anything else. So, we had a lot of conversations, and I hope we did justice. But everything was going great, smooth, honky dory. We get to tech, and we find out that our technical director quit on that day, and we were like, "Oh, okay. What does that mean?" And they're like, "Come back in 4 hours," and we're like, "Okay." So we came back in 4 hours. We did something. We did stuff that day, you know. And then the next day we started. We were just moving along. Something happened. A person backstage had a full on meltdown because something went down when it wasn't supposed to. They stormed out. We were put on pause again. And we were supposed to have a preview that
If that was Wednesday, yeah, you start previews that night.
No, it was Tuesday, so we were supposed to have a preview the next day, but we didn't
Yeah.
because of what happened. So preview one was canceled. The next day, another person did not appreciate something and they stormed out. And we were put on hold again for a
Mhm.
couple hours. And another preview was gone. Things just were just not gelling. And we lost all of our previews. Um, but we did make it to opening night. But I will say this, the most wonderful thing was our director and associate and music director never showed that they were upset,
Mhm.
frustrated, angry. They never
Yeah.
took it out. They never took it out on us, which I know actors can get the brunt of. I I have so much love for how they approached it and
Mhm.
how it just was. It was a masterclass in how to be a leader.
Mhm.
And if that's the takeaway that I take from that experience, that's the takeaway. And as someone who's going into directing and wants to be a part of, that side, I will take that with me forever
Yeah.
because I've had the opposite and it sucks. I recently had the opposite
Mhm.
where I didn't feel the warmth and I didn't feel like my voice mattered and the conversations were very short and not great. And I didn't feel like we gelled, and I'm not going to gel with everybody, and I totally understand that. But at the end of the day, I want my cast and my crew and my company to feel like it's all going to be okay. Because at the end of the day, we are just putting on a show. No
Yeah.
one, no one is getting hurt. But at the same time, when you lose shows, when you get COVID and you have to lose a week of three, you think about it and you're like, all those callbacks, all those hours on the material, all those
Mhm.
things you feel like are just thrown out the window. And like, but you have to, again, you have to realize like, you have nothing to prove. You got the job. So you're going to
Yeah.
go there, do your job, do what you can with the time that you're given, even if it's cut short because of things that are out of your jurisdiction.
Mhm.
Um, and that's that. No one's going to hate you. No one's going to be mad at you. No one's going to say things about you because they're not they're not things that you can control. I can't control when my test is going to be negative again, you know.
That was
So
the scary and hard part about Sound of Music was that so Tootsie and Sound of Music overlapped with each other, and clearly because we had overlapping cast members, you were not there for the start of Sound of Music rehearsals. You were over Zoom, and we were like meeting you over a laptop, like hi Dean, hi Dean. But the same thing kind of happened to us. I'm fully convinced I had COVID. I'm fully convinced.
I remember you were sick. Yeah.
I
But
was
you
sick
kept
for
testing negative, right?
yeah, so like I was sick for a day originally. I was sick for a day where I felt, oh, I don't feel great. And then the next day I felt fine. I just had like a little sniffles, and it was when the flowers were blooming, so and the pollen level was high. And I have severe allergies, so I was like, oh, it's clearly that. I would take my Flonase and I would feel better. And then I started, like, days happened, and then I started having a cough. And at that point, someone had tested positive. And then I tested negative. And I was like, I feel like this might be COVID. I don't know what's happening. And I kept testing and I kept testing negative. But I'm fully convinced with how that spread through the ensemble, like, that was for sure COVID. Like,
Well, the T is with Tootsie. I was the only actor that got COVID in that
mm-hmm,
time frame of Tootsie. We had a girl drop, had to not come back because she had pneumonia, but she's on a national tour right now, baby.
Bailey, we got to get Bailey on the
Bailey, oh
show.
yeah, hello Bailey. Bailey is on the national tour. Funny girl, we love you, proud of you.
Oh my God, what an
Um,
icon. Yeah, no, I love how like so we have wall tags in the dressing room in like
yeah,
the quote unquote star dressing room, whatever. We have these like large wall tags, right? And so around the Tootsie one, she signed Bailey, Fallen Soldier as her role.
really proud of her. And you know, she came back and got to do Sound of Music, and she was great.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but I was the only actor, but a lot of crew were
Mm-hmm.
getting COVID. So there was a show. So my two best friends from the theater I did theater growing up,
Mm-hmm.
they came to see me because I'm from Connecticut, and it was only like an hour, 10 minutes away.
Yeah, yeah.
So they came that the Sunday before I had COVID. No, the Saturday
Mm-hmm.
before I had COVID. They came to see the show.
Mm-hmm.
No, it was the Sunday, and there were several cast members that were feeling very uncomfortable about performing, knowing that COVID was running rampant.
Yeah, yeah.
Because the night before, so in our show, we had this huge unit that was the apartment that came
Mm-hmm.
downstage. Okay.
Which was gorgeous.
Yeah, Gorgina. And it was a pretty good distance to feel like you're connected to your audience. Well,
Mm-hmm.
that Saturday before, we didn't have enough crew members, so that unit had to stay all the way upstage for the entire show.
Oh God.
So we're doing our show, and all of my scenes basically took place in the apartment. All of my scenes took place all the way upstage,
Yeah,
away from the
yeah.
audience. So we had to find ways to compensate, like when the table's gonna maybe be mid stage. I think I have some
Mm-hmm.
pictures of me just like being like, "What is this shit fest?" Um, and then the next day, several cast members were not feeling comfortable doing the show, understandable,
Mm-hmm.
and the show got canceled that Sunday. So my friends that were coming to see the show didn't get to see the show, but we hung out. I actually started to have a little bit of a sore throat that night because the Barbara Streisand show was the next day. I wore my mask just thinking I was just trying to be protective, and I was just like, oh, I think I'm just, it's been crazy and whatever. And
Yeah.
I also had bronchitis because of other complications of
Yeah.
some living arrangements. Um, you can't write this stuff, and I loved it. So I had to take a COVID test though, regardless, the Monday because rehearsal started for Sound of Music,
Mm-hmm.
and I tested positive, and I was like, okay. I was like, I'm positive, and I kept testing positive. I kept testing for a whole week, and so I finally tested.
Oh.
I was positive on Saturday. Sunday I was negative, and I was like, I can go in, and they were like, we promised the understudies they were going to go on for the rest of the week, so you're just going to have to wait until next Tuesday. I was like, fine, I will wait. And then we got to do the last week of the shows. It was a great final week. Um, so yeah, that was the Tootsie journey.
And then it
Because
bled over into Sound of Music, which
because you had the cast members that were double
the
dutying in
the
that.
overlapping, and it was just I can laugh now.
Couldn't laugh then. Couldn't be
No,
me.
it couldn't be me.
Couldn't be me.
And that's why we're trauma bonded because of chaos by the sea.
uh, yeah, but yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, it was a summer to remember. There was a lot of positive.
Yeah.
There was some things that I just was gobsmacked at.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I could say about it. And we had the duck hunt, which was great. The duck hunt was amazing.
Please talk about the duck hunt. I've kind of
So,
briefly mentioned it here, but like, please discuss the duck hunt.
so our amazing our crew, who all of them were just the best, like truly the best crew. I loved them all so much. they played a game with the actors that they had these little tiny ducks that were like plastic and they were so cute. And they hid
Mm-hmm.
them around the backstage. The rules were the ducks could not make it on stage. They could not be on any props that would go on stage or set pieces, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get five, you get a piece of candy, but you have to keep a tally for the long run.
Mm-hmm.
So in Tootsie, I was doing pretty damn well, and then my streak ended when I died. Um, that's the thing about COVID too. I like didn't even have COVID. I didn't even have COVID. It was like a scratchy throat, some sniffles, and a cough. And the doctor was like, when you feel better, give yourself another day and you can go back. And I was like, well, I'm not feeling awful. So what does that mean? And he's like, yeah, you'll figure it out. I'm like, thanks, Rhode Island. So, anyways, I was like, all right, redemption arc, Sound of Music. Because I wasn't originally supposed to be in Sound of Music, but they had somebody drop out. So I got to stay. And I'm very
Mm-hmm.
glad because I got to meet Kat, or we wouldn't be doing this podcast right now. So,
Hey.
so Kat and I were basically in competition with each other. Everyone was doing pretty damn good, but it would be like one day I'd find like 10. So I'd be like at 100. And Kat would maybe start at like 110. And then by the time the fucking show ended, I mean, it is 3 hours, granted, and we did have a lot. I was only on stage for 6 minutes. Uh, that's including bows. Um, would be like, oh, I'm at 250, and I'm like, I just got here, okay? I just got here. What do you want? Like, how? How did you find 150 in 3 hours? I don't get it. But we had a great time, and we kind of ended at the same breaking point.
Yeah.
We were given honorary certificates.
Yes,
So
yes. I won with I think 300.
I think I was
I
at like 290, 280,
so
something like
yeah,
that.
yeah. Yeah, we were Duck King and Queen. Um but let me
Guess.
just say during 42nd Street they bought more ducks and I was so mad because they had so many more ducks to hide. I could have found way more ducks because our Peggy Sawyer, Peg Me Sawyer, Broadway World nominee, Peggy
And Cat
Sawyer.
Gold, Cat Gold Broadway World nominee too.
Wah,
My
wah,
my
wah. But you're an actual Broadway World award winner. Please tell me about that. We kind of briefly talked about it before we started recording, and it's so fucking iconic.
So I was in the Full Monty at the Mac Hayden in 2022,
Mm-hmm.
and I was very grateful. I received a Berkshire Theatre Critic nomination for
Hey.
best supporting actor in a musical, which was great. I did not win, but I was just happy to be nominated, which is the truth. It was my first ever nomination for a role, which I thought was really cool. And
Mm-hmm.
then I got nominated for a Broadway World Award for that too. And in that same season, not only an hour away, Emily Skinner and Sierra Boggess were performing in A Little Night Music, which we saw, and it was superb, and they were both superb. However, when it came, I beat Emily Skinner and Sierra Boggess in a Broadway World Award. I have a
I
picture, I think, of the graphs, and it's
send
like
it to me and I
scenery.
will insert it right here.
I will. I bet they saw that and they're like, "Who the fuck is Dean Marino?" And then when I went to go see Stuffs, I was like, "I beat you, Emily. I beat yeah." Not out loud. That would be a little weird. I was front row, but I was like, in my brain, I was like, "I beat you." But you're the one up there, and I'm the one in the seat. So I guess they're winning in life, but I won a Broadway World Award.
There
Still
you
waiting for
go.
still waiting for my certificate. So
Maybe
they'll
you could
never
get like
know.
a printout one. Like they should have like a printout award so you could just like put it in a frame. Like a diploma or something, being like, you want a thing.
You know,
That'd be
you would think
nice. You would
that would be
nice.
very nice.
Like a coloring page printout. If you Broadway were forward. No, but so Laura, who was Peggy Sawyer, she a role that doesn't leave the fucking stage. This scrappy girl, as I told her about it in rehearsal, about the duck hunt, and she was already invested before it began, much like I was. But, and I decided I won the duck hunt. So I was like, I'm not going to search for ducks. I'm going to hide ducks. I'm going to work with the crew
Oh yes, yeah.
and hide them. But Laura was like, oh no, I am going to do this and I'm going to win. And I was like, Laura, you never leave this stage. How are you going to? This fucking child found well over 400 ducks.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, and you turn them in so they can rehide them. That's a part of the thing. So there's
Yes.
like never-ending ducks. There's probably one backstage somewhere right now
There's definitely
collecting dust.
there's more than one. Part of me wishes I could go into that theater right now with a flashlight and find the ducks. I'd probably find mice and raccoons, but I want to see if I can find the ducks.
We did have a bird on stage during Tootsie, so that and it went through the audience too. I was like, as if things couldn't escalate. Oh, but they did. And then
I'm
in Sound of
trying to.
Music,
Was it Sound of Music when the raccoons like got into the raccoons got into like the candy? I think
I maybe.
maybe that was 42nd Street.
Oop, probably. That's why they say don't have food in there, but yes.
No, so they
So,
had it like in a box. It was in a closed up
yeah,
box, and they still found their way into it. However, our Laura, because she thought our dressing room had a door, it would be unaffected. Raccoons came into that dressing room and ate a Snickers, wrapper and all. It was just like little tiny pieces,
that I didn't
like
know.
in her tray. And I was like, this is what you get, ghoulie girl. This is what you
That
get.
that I did not know. But what I do know is that the the experiences continued, shall we say,
Mm-hmm.
well into Sound of Music. So there's an area called the Treehouse that
Mm-hmm.
has it's kind of suspended in air. Um,
Yeah.
it's a treehouse because you go up to the dressing rooms and then there's the branches off to the where the ensemble usually the ensemble boys go, and that's where my room was. Now for those of you who are listening, I'm a nice, well-rounded individual,
Mm-hmm.
size-wise, and usually it's very slender, little dancer boys up there.
Mm-hmm.
And one day we're up there and we hear something fall, and planks. Remember when planks fell from the treehouse? And I remember too, because the boys have to do a quick change at the end of the show. They all ran upstairs, and I was sitting because I was all ready to go because mine was quick.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sitting there, and I shit you not, Kat, I felt the floor like compressed under me. And that was the night the thing fell. I was like, oh, this is unsafe. Got it, got it, got it. And after that piece of wood fell, I went to our stage manager and I said, hey, so I'm never going to go up there again. I just can't. And I was the
Yeah.
only cast member with my own dressing room, which was a piece
The
of
doc.
cloth, the doc, which I signed, by the way. I signed was when I left. Because you're able to sign something in the theater for those
Mm-hmm.
listening. Your role, your name, what show, all that
Yeah,
jazz.
yeah.
And I put it at next to the power box where the door opens up. I was so proud. I was like, this was my dressing room, and I loved it. I loved being right there because I would pre-show again. I had a 45-minute wait to go on stage. I
Mm-hmm.
would put my boots on, put my pants on, or my shoes on. I would be all ready to go. I'd put on my little tux like 5 minutes before,
Mm-hmm.
go strip that off, put on my next outfit, go sit on the dock outside. So that was that. And if you still think it can't get any worse, I don't want to air the dirty laundry. Basically, all of our flies for the show were cut. We had a lot of them. We had chandeliers, we had gates, we had the curtain for the final concert for the.
The show was all flies, and then one day, and then one day, so they decided to load in 42nd Street early. Now, because we have it's a very quick turnaround. It's like you have like 24 hours basically until tech for the next show begins from when you close one show, right? So they decided we're gonna hang some of the flies for 42nd Street. Now, one of the flies was this giant sparkle pointy backdrop that they used in a chorus line, but they used it for the "We're in the Money" scene. Now, this thing is our stage is very small. This thing was very large and it has pointy edges. Now, we're Theater by the Sea is one of the
I
theaters.
remember this. I heard about this story.
Theater by the Sea is one of the last theaters that actually has a sandbag based fly system. Most of them are now weight based, like with like metal weights, but this is like old school sandbags. Pointy object during the wedding. During the wedding scene, it now we had already cut our flies down to 3 flies at this point because we didn't have the manpower to do it, and so it was just like, well, this is what we're reducing our set to. So it became a very abstract Sound of Music. But one of the important drops was the was
villa,
was the villa.
the Von Trapp house. Beautiful, by the way.
Beautiful.
Beautiful window, ornate, gorgina. Looked like you were looking out on the Alps. Tell them what happened, Kat.
And
Tell
so
them what happened.
the wedding scene, our other drop that we were so there was 3 drops. It was the villa, it was the inside of the cathedral for the wedding, and then it was in the church stuff, and
the
then
final concert,
and then the final concert. And so during the wedding scene, you just hear shh, 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 shh. And now all of us nuns are walking from the back of the house onto the stage. How do you solve a problem like Maria? Whatever. And so we're just hearing this noise. And we were directed to look out to the audience, and then we turn in to face each other. Now, Ginger, who is playing Sister Margareta, is directly across from me. Now, Ginger's daughter is playing Gretel in the show. And now the children are supposed to go in the direction of the noise. And I just see panicked eyeballs darting from where her kid is to the sandbag. Where her kid is to the sandbag. And at that point, I realized the sandbag has been popped by the 42nd Street set and is actively pouring backstage.
Wait, did they put this 42nd Street thing up? They put it up before? Is that why? That's why it popped?
Yes, it got caught on the pointy "We're in the Money" thing and just popped and was just leaking sand. And so we ended up not having a villa for
last week,
which is
last 5 shows.
Yeah, which is crazy when there's only like three flying things. Everything else, the hills were really alive, guys. The hills were really alive.
You can't make this shit up. That's for sure. You can't make this shit up. We had so many flies too. We had the concert, red concert curtain. We had the chapel. We had the villa. We had this beautiful overhang of a tree to be in the garden. We had gates for the cathedral. We had a chandelier for the ball scene. We had chandeliers for the wedding. All of that.
We had these Abbey gates that would fly in.
All of it was cut.
Oh,
and again, rightly so. But, I really liked what our director said, Michael Jablonski. He was like, they're not coming to see chandeliers. They're coming to see you. You are the show.
Yeah.
So, and I must say, our backdrop was Gorgina.
Oh,
Gorgeous.
beautiful, stunning,
I,
beautiful. And and
yeah,
and
hand painted.
people came during those days. He said that he didn't miss it. He didn't miss the villa,
No.
because it was still like, even with as much empty space as it was, he was like, you guys are still doing beautiful storytelling, and like, you forget about those details because you're focused on Maria, the captain, and the children.
Uh,
Not the
a
rest of
part of
us.
no, right. A part of me feels like I wasn't a part of that show, but
Same.
that's just because I mean, you had more to sing. Luckily, you had a whole song where I literally the male ensemble has one word, two syllables. Goodbye. That's all the male ensemble sings, and the finale that we did, but the bows. But show
Yeah.
wise, that's it, Mama. You want to hear males sing a song? Absolutely not.
It's never gonna
Sing
happen.
a song.
Never gonna
I
happen.
I I thought maybe like because I haven't seen a play version of The Sound of Music before.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, like well, I'll get to sing "Climb Every Mountain Together" at the ending. No, no, it's just the nuns, which rightly so. I get it story wise, but wow, I was like, okay,
What what a bummer.
I was like, Princess Track, baby.
Cigarette
I was
martini
the
break every show.
literally, I was the resident RNH historian though, so
Yes, you would give us all fun facts that would be told to us during our half-hour call, which we very much appreciated. Okay,
I was
so
like, I gotta kill the time somehow. So let me do something, damn it.
oh my
Okay.
goodness. So just to wrap up, I would love to hear. We have a lot of students. Michael is a teacher as well. I teach occasionally, but we have a decent amount of students that do listen in to the show. So I would love to get a piece of advice that you would want to give these students who are looking to go into performing.
Yeah. Wow. Well, first off, for those students who are listening, we say all the things we say here with love, and we now laugh at it, and there are so many good moments, and there's
Mm-hmm.
going to be this isn't the advice, but there will always be bad moments, but there will always be good moments that go in tandem, and you just have to find them, and you know everything we say here is with love. I just want to say that from my end.
Yeah, no, no, no. I mean, the thing is that we love theater. We would not do this field if we didn't love it. Like,
Yeah,
because to be clear, we could work other jobs, make a lot more money, have a lot more mental peace of mind. We do it because we love the art. We
yeah,
love storytelling and the collaborative part of this job. But
yeah.
we also recognize that we're playing pretend for a living, and I love to take the piss out of theater. So,
Yes, and everyone you meet will influence your journey. Whether not every interaction is going to be beautiful, but you will know those moments, and you will know the moments that make, like, my directors for the summer, and the people like Kat. You will find the people who are uplift you and will influence you, and the people that won't, and the people that won't care about you. And it's a hard pill. This isn't the advice. I still have advice, but it's the truth. It's like this business. There's so many people who are going to tell you so many things, and have so many opinions about you, um, and it's just not worth it to. It's just not worth it to overthink what people think about you, because
mm,
I know I did that, especially this summer, and I'm not happy with how much I let it affect me. Um, but I'm for the better, and I know the people that are here in my life that are supporting me as I support them too. But my piece of advice for any performer is, I truly mean this. Do not lose sight of what you bring into a space, whether it's a rehearsal, an audition, or a show. You are hired for that job because they saw something in you, not you as the character. They saw something in you and your person. So don't let anybody try to put out your light and what you bring. Know yourself, right? Know what you bring to the room, to the table. Know the areas that you're strong in, that you want to improve in, but you can work on, whether that's if you need to take more voice, dance, what have you. But just don't lose yourself along the way, because I've seen too many people get discouraged, and I've seen too many teachers discourage students because they don't fit the mold of what that that director wants for them. It's not about them, right? It's about, you've hired these people, you're bringing them into the space because you trust in them and their aura and who they are in the space, that they're going to do the job. So that's my bit of advice.
Ugh. I love you so much, Dean. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. For anybody in the casting side who's listening to this, I'm so sorry. No, I'm
Please
kidding.
cast us anyway. Please cast us. We're very good.
I say all things with love. Truly, I'm not every day is a great day, but
Mhm.
I continue to hopefully shed optimism and joy, and I know that you are one and the same. That's why we're literally twins.
Yeah.
So
So
literally,
tell me what are your socials, because we're clearly going to have some Dean fans after this. So that
uh,
tell people where they can find you.
I forgot my. You can find me on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
I have to know my name. Sorry, please hold.
It's okay.
Um, it's just Dean underscore Marino zero
Mm-hmm.
one. Or you can find me on TikTok um, as the optimistic reviewer. That is but you can also just type in Dean Marino. Um, I'm also currently going viral for watches on my instas. I made one about Jonathan Bailey and Wicked, and
Hey.
I just found out it has 118,000 views, which is
Oh my
crazy.
God. You're so famous. Holy
I
shit.
was like, all it took was to talk about Jonathan Bailey. I could have been doing that since Bridgerton came out.
Oh,
Can I read to you what I said was? So, have you seen
yes.
Wicked yet? Have you seen
I
Wicked
have
yet? By the
not
way,
seen it yet. I know. I've been listening to it. I've been in we're doing a cookie swap tomorrow. I've been in cookie mode. So I've just been baking dozens and dozens and dozens in advance.
well, I hope you go.
I will.
And I'll leave you with this, because it's going to be better than part one, part two.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the list of things Jonathan Bailey will have chemistry with in As Long as You're Mine, because the trend right now is that Jonathan Bailey is so good that he could have chemistry. Everyone's like, you could just have chemistry with anything. They're like, your
Mm-hmm.
horse, Cynthia. So this is the list just in As Long as You're Mine.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, Cynthia, of course. Two, her Gorgina Part Two Alphaba gown, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So when you'll see the movie, you'll see that he has a horse in the movie. So number three, the horse is going to transport them to the unspecified cave, cavern, Emerald City passageway. So of course, the horse. It's truth. Number four, the fog enveloping them for this sequence. Number five, the lantern he better be carrying. If I don't see a fucking lantern on that stage, John M. Chu, I'm coming after you. Please put me in your next movie. Um, Six, the suspenders he will be sporting. If I don't see suspenders, I'm going to kill somebody. Actually, please, no, don't kill anybody. Homicide's not great. Um, Seven, Cynthia's gorgeous green nails. We love those nails, and I feel like her ASMR would be off the charts with those things.
Mhm.
8, the mouse that is scurrying in the camera off screen, in the corner off screen. Number 9, the camera person filming. If it was me, I know I would not be stable. 10, the jacket he will seductively shed, no doubt. And 11, the boot prints leading to their hiding spot. So that's my list of things Jonathan Bailey will indeed have chemistry with in this rendition of As Long as You're Mine.
I fucking can't with you.
Please like and subscribe.
Oh my god. I love you so much. And with
I love
that,
you.
and with that, thank you for listening to Nonic Nonsense. We come to you on your dark days. We come out every Monday with a new episode. So
Your
this
dark
is
day.
yeah, because it's a dark day in theater. So, so this was Kat and Dean. So everyone, stay happy, stay healthy, no COVID. See you next time.